I always had a passion for art and for fashion, so I went and got my very first art degree. I took it downtown where I looked all around, but no one seemed to want to hire me. Instead of moping and crying and huffing and sighing, I came up with a great idea. I'd make a show where I'd paint and I'd draw and create, and maybe someone out there could learn from me. So pick up your canvas and pick up your palette and have your brush and your pencil on ya, cause I'm about to show you a thing or two. You are watching Art with Anya. Heyo, it's Anya. Today I'm going to be making and using a device called an art machine, specifically a painting pendulum device. An art machine functions by transforming the movements of outside forces into a mark. Over time, you're left with more and more marks on your surface. The artist can stop the machine once they've determined that the piece is finished, or they can let the machine run until it stops itself. The painting pendulum is a fun to use and relatively easy to set up art machine that can deliver beautiful, complex pieces of spirographic art. Now let's see if I can build a pendulum that works and hopefully generate some interesting pieces. First, I determined that the best place for a machine like this would be the garage, because it's very likely that a lot of paint won't even make it on the canvas. I'd recommend doing art like this in a place you don't care much about getting messy. Now that I had a location for my contraption, I needed to fashion some vessel to hold the paint, as well as something to suspend it by. For this, I used an empty bean can with holes drilled in it, and some strong string. Thankfully, the garage had a bar I could hang my string from, so I didn't have to worry about building some kind of stand. Now it was time to figure out the paint situation. The hole in the can was very small, so the paint I used had to be thin enough to flow out, but still thick enough to keep its pigment. I tested out a few consistencies, and what I had here seemed to work alright. Finally, everything was ready to go, and I could start the pendulum on its first go-round with the blue paint. It was looking really good until, of course, my camera died and I had to resume the next day. When I came back, I noticed that my super clean lines had totally ran together. It wasn't the look I was hoping for, but it was still cool in its own way. I poured some red paint in the can for the next go-round of the pendulum. I wanted to use all three of the primary colors on this piece, so I finished it off with some yellow. Piece number 1 was complete, and while it was very different from the other pendulum paintings I looked at, it was interesting to look at up close. All of the stripes of colors blended together and they created a sort of marbled pattern. For the next painting, I wanted to try putting several colors of paint into the can at once to see how it would come out on the page. I batted the paint can around every once in a while to alter its ellipsis around the canvas, opposed to letting it stay on the same path until the paint ran out. Doing this created a lot more dynamic and off-center shapes. The longer the can dripped, the more the colors of paint inside mixed together. Once I started getting big gray blobs, I stopped the pendulum. This piece was super crazy. The areas where the colors remained more separated looked really trippy. For the third and final piece, I decided I wanted to drill 2 more holes into the can to see how 3 lines at once would look. At first, the results were just how I imagined, with the paint coming out in clean, long lines. Unfortunately, it stopped working after a while, and I was only getting large drops of paint. I rolled with it and just kept adding random colors. I started to really dislike the look of this painting, so I decided I was done with it and the pendulum project as a whole. The colors I picked did not look great together. I know if I tried this again, I'd pay more attention to color theory when selecting my paints. And now it's time for the big reveal. I call this first piece Primary Color Party. Of the three, this was my second favorite. This piece was my favorite of the three. I call it Kindergarten Crayon Throw Up. Finally, the last and my least favorite piece, The Galaxy You Don't Want to Go To. Thank you for watching this episode of Art with Aine. I hope that you found the process of making an art machine entertaining as well as inspiring. If you yourself build a painting pendulum, be sure to email the results at artwithanya@gmail.com because I would love to see them. Have a great day and stay creative.